welcome back to Create the Life You Dream. I'm Rachel Gusilier. In this channel, we're all about motivation, inspiration, and a little bit of magic. So my goal is to try to get a video up every single day. I'm kind of like making this like an October spook fest, but not like really spooky, but just kind of like videos every single day in the month of October to celebrate Halloween and fall and just hopefully a really large announcement for our family later on in the month, but we'll get into that later on. Today we are going to be foraging. So foraging is basically going out into nature and finding like flowers, mushrooms, herbs, just any natural products that can be used either within magic as a remedy or even just some like all natural medicines. My goal today is trying to find goldenrod. I want to create like kind of like a homeopathic allergy like medicine. Now I am not a professional at all. This is all like personal experiences that I am using within my family. I am not like making bulk and selling it and, you know, trying to promote this, but it is something that I have researched on my own. So I definitely suggest you do your own research. But I'm going to walk through the process of like beginning foraging in this video. And if you want to kind of go along in your yard and do it as well, you're welcome to do so. So I hope you enjoy this video. Let's get going. Okay, so the first thing that I 100% suggest for foraging, wear comfortable clothes. So I am like in a just comfy t-shirt, some comfy leggings, I have sneakers on. If you have gloves, I would 100% suggest you to wear gloves just in case you touch something that you found out all of a sudden you're allergic to, or even like touching a plant and you didn't realize it was poisonous because you were trying to get another plant and then you have like allergic reaction from the poison from the plant. So having like gardening gloves or at least rubber gloves would help while foraging. And then I have a tendency I actually take a shower so my hair is nice and wet and it stays cool while I'm outside, but I put my hair in a ponytail so it's out of my face, and then I'll put sunscreen on my skin because of the fact that I'm gonna be outside just bending over and just not concentrating on the weather. I want to make sure my skin is protected. So that is already all done. Next thing that I also do suggest is get yourself a drink or at least some water. You want to stay hydrated because you're doing a lot of like bending over and harvesting plants and just being in nature. You want to make sure that your body is being fueled with really great hydration and just nutrition in general while you're out in nature. You want to feel good while you're doing your thing. So I'm going to get my water ready and then we're going to take a step outside and we're going to start our very first steps of foraging. So first for foraging, what I like to do is map out the yard in a notebook. So I kind of take a regular notebook. I'm just going to open it up so you guys can be a part. And I turn the paper sideways. Now you could do this with a plain piece of paper. I just happen to have like this cheap notebook that I use to brainstorm and journal and just whatever. And I like to map out certain parts of the yard so I know where I find certain plants. I can mark it on my map. Because I want to get familiar with what is in my yard currently. And I do this with a app, which I'm going to we'll leave a picture right up here of the app. And the great thing about the app is that you can scan your plant and it will let you know what it is. And what I personally do is I write down on my map what that plant is, and then I can research it of whether it's edible or whether it can be used for any like purposes like within medicine or medicinal or just any type of magic in general. So I'm gonna first map out the yard so then that way I could go around and scan a bunch of plants and see what I can use and what I can't use. Okay, so this is my map. Oops. And it kind of like lines up, like the circles are the bushes in the back, then there's the rock, you got the shed, which is right there, the cage, which is the old dog cage, and it just is basically like a generic, the wind is blowing it, a generic map of the yard. And then what I'll do is on certain areas, say like I found a plant by the shed, which I think there is a bush of goldenrod over there, I could write it there, so then that way I know what the types of plants are in the yard, because so you first want to be educated with the plants that you have. So I switched the camera, I got my phone now, and we are gonna start walking around the yard. Now you might see Addison running around and playing. This is like it is a great activity for kids to get involved. Addison has done some of the foraging with me before, especially last, I want to say spring, when it was mostly like flowers. Like she was just so into it. For the fall season, it's not that much flowers that are out. Like there's a few, like I think they're like daisies, and then there's these white type of flower, but we're just basically gonna start on one corner of the yard and then work our way around. It is super sunny, super bright, and we are gonna first start with just looking and seeing and feeling with our intuition. So I like to feel certain energies from plants, because all plants have energies. They're a living being in a way, and I like to feel certain energies, and if I feel like a certain plant is giving off a certain energy that connects with me, I will scan it, so then that way I know what it is, write it down on the map, research it, and then if it's something that definitely resonates with my soul that I feel like that I can use, I will harvest that. So right away with, like, for instance, again, this is in my yard, but it kind of helps with having the yard so wild like this, because it creates great opportunities of seeing wildflowers. So right away, like, there are tons of just flowers in the yard that, like, you automatically gravitate towards, because you think, oh, flowers, they must have a property, maybe I can make a tea or a honey with it. And that's one way to start off with foraging. Addison just found,
it's a weird looking nut. What is that?
It's not a weird looking nut, it's starting to grow.
Can I touch it?
Yeah.
Oh.
She found an acorn that's starting to grow. But it's kind of fun, because then the kids can get involved too. Here, you could have that. Okay, so I am gonna pull up my app, and I am actually going to try to screen record on my phone, so then that way you could kind of see how the app works and see how awesome it really is as a tool to help with foraging and understanding plants. So on the side of the screen, you're gonna see the app. This is what mine currently looks like. So let's take a picture of this plant right here. Okay, so what you do is you just press the picture button, and it's gonna pop up. And what you can do is first you just let it kind of sense it. When it has more circles and it kind of knows what it is, you can take a picture, and then it gives the description of what it is and also what other colors it can come as. So this right here is fleabane and horseweed. So it's kind of interesting. You can load the photos, you can see what other people in your area, if they also are using the app, if they've taken any pictures. And then what I'll do is I will come over to my map that I have. Oops. I'll come over to my map and I'll line it up, and then I can put over here near the cage fleabanes. And then you go around the yard and you just keep on marking different flowers, and then you could educate yourself of what the plants are and what you need. So that's the first step, is mapping out your yard. So we're in the lower part of the yard. The yard kind of like is split up into two sections. So past this, these are the bushes that were in the back of the yard. We're in the lower part. The one thing with foraging that I've learned is when you see a lot of like ferns that are like this, which is a lot in New England, especially in the forests, it basically means that the land has not been tended to and that the soil is just overtaking the land. So like the soil is fruitful for wild plants to grow. But we're just looking. I don't see that much goldenrods in the yard this year. I just seen one bushel so far. I am kind of specifically looking for that type of plant. I want to make a honey. Oh, I see some over here. Let me show you what I'm actually looking for. So again, I'm just mapping out the yard. I'm not harvesting it yet, but I will be harvesting. But this flower right here is a goldenrod. And I want to harvest them. It's still, it's kind of enough. When I harvest them, I'll see how much I get out of it. I might have to find more within the wild. In our area, there are some woods where goldenrod would be, but it's a Saturday, and that's hunting goes on in those woods. So I want to wait till Sunday to actually gather up in the woods, and then that way I know that on Sundays they don't hunt, and I want to keep us as safe as we can. So also take in consideration, if you are going to be randomly in the woods, like just finding a woods to do foraging, to take in consideration any hunting areas or any areas that you are not supposed to forage, to preserve the woods. But if it's in your backyard, it's more safe than anything. So I think we're finishing up with mapping out the yard. I did see some poke plants, which I harvested last year to create a protection oil. Nothing to ingest, everything that is like superficial that can be placed on items or in spells, but nothing that can go on the skin, because poke plant can be poisonous and harmful to some people, especially if you are allergic. So I have to be careful, but I might harvest some to create another protection oil again. I want to actually see what this plant is, I believe, because it has very pretty red berries or seeds on it. So I'm going to go ahead, finish up mapping, and then we'll jump right into harvesting. Okay, so once you kind of know what plants you're gonna harvest and what ones you're not, like you're just gonna leave it because it doesn't bring any like resource to you, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. You want to create something that for harvesting. Now last year I basically had just harvest a whole bunch of stuff and put them in a basket with like a cloth. And afterwards, I'd taken it back into my kitchen, separated it, did what I needed to do with it, which took a lot of work, like extra work. So this year, I'm going to be doing something different. So I have like this old basket right here. This is like a bread loaf container. I got a jar. I have like a little planter's pot, and then this is a cut paper bag. I just cut it lower and then opened it up so it would stay open. So I'm gonna do a lot of this separation while I'm outside, while I'm harvesting, so then that way I know kind of how it's separated, especially because when I am harvesting the goldenrod and trying to make allergy medicine, I don't want it to be like touching like the poke plant, because we're going to be ingesting the goldenrod for microdosing. So I don't want to put poke plant remnants that were on the goldenrod into my allergy medicine. So I'm gonna keep it separate. I think what I'm gonna do is put the poke plants in here and then the goldenrods in here. And this, I'm actually gonna grab some of those dogwood seeds and then learn how to plant those trees. And that's what the biggest thing about foraging is. It's a process of learning the land and experimenting to see what works with you. And then I also have a little just container if I want to harvest anything else while I am out there. But I'm going to try this method by harvesting it and separating it while outside to see if it makes it easier. And it's very experimental. Like, do what you feel like would help you and research your own information. That's the biggest thing, is just learning along the way. So let's go harvest some plants. Okay, so I just went in this area. I didn't want to really film it because it's very like viney and there's prickle bushes, but I just harvest these right here. So what I'll do is I will cut them into like smaller batches like that. I was trying to go and harvest some poke, but I'm noticing that there's a lot more bees out right now as it gets warmer throughout the day. So tomorrow morning, I'm probably gonna go out when it's like kind of still early and cold, when the bees aren't gonna be out, and harvest the poke. So then that way I am not stung, because I don't know if I'm allergic, and that's another thing that you have to take in consideration. I do want to learn more about bees, but we have to be careful. But I did get the dogwood seeds in there. I have to research and learn a lot more about it before actually doing it. Like, I know like dogwood is harmless. I don't think you can ingest it, but I do love the plant. So I'm just going to learn how to grow them. So then that way I have some dogwood trees. And again, just make sure that if you are foraging, you are doing it legally. If it's in your yard, obviously you could do whatever you want within your yard, but if you see something like a plant that's in another person's yard and you want it, make sure that you ask permission before just walking on their property. And all right, so we did all the harvesting. I have a bunch of goldenrod here. I am gonna make like a goldenrod honey. So the great thing about doing foraging is you can learn so many different ways of using plants and herbs that are local in your yard as great properties, either for colds or allergies or anything that you want. So whenever I am researching a plant, I'm researching also different ways that I can prepare it or just make something out of it. So I potentially can actually make these into like a bunch, like a bundle, I guess, and dry them out, use them in as tea bags or in honeys and stuff like that. But for this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut these up into sections and I'm gonna put them into a jar, have honey all over it, and let that sit for 3 to 6 weeks. After 3 to 6 weeks, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it out and I'm actually gonna simmer it, because since this plant carries so much, even though it's so little, it does carry water. So when you mix the water with honey, it can have a tendency to ferment. And we don't want it to ferment too much where it turns into an alcohol. So we are going to eventually simmer it to bring it down to a shelf life so it stops fermenting. And that way we can get about 1 to 2 years out of that honey as a type of medicine for our family. So I'm gonna take just basically bunches of it like this. Now you can use the stems because the stems are pretty soft, and the leaves, it's not gonna hurt you. And the great thing about goldenrod is they carry so much pollen inside the flower. It's not a type of flower that blows pollen everywhere. It actually keeps it on the plant. So that's why it's so great, especially for allergies and especially for just medicinal purposes, such as colds. It's great for your lungs. And it actually, not to get personal, but it makes you pee a lot. So it also is good for when you are sick and you need to get those toxins out, because it like helps you to go to the bathroom and get all those toxins out. So I'm just basically cutting these into sections. Now you can pre-wash them, but you don't want to wash it too much where the flowers are going to come off. So I do suggest if you are going to wash the plants, which you should, put them in a like bowl of just, you know, water and just kind of let it sit and move it around slightly. So I'm just gonna keep on cutting sections and putting it in the container. You want to make sure that the honey covers the plant fully, so then that way they are fully submerged and it's not going to get dried out. And I am just loosely putting it in. I am not packing it down. And I am just going to fill up this jar. If I have enough, I might fill up another jar because I do want to use all of the plant that I harvested. So it is filled to the top, but I loosely put it in. So when I put the honey in, it is definitely going to go down because of the weight. Now, it is really good to try to get some local honey. I don't have any local honey right now, so I just have some raw, unfiltered honey, and I'm just going to pour this right on top to make sure that it is fully covered. I'm going to take my little just spatula and just kind of press this down. And we are going to just like let this sit. Now I did leave room in the container. That's why I'm doing it in a large container, so then that way when it does ferment, it gives room for the air to mix around. And because this honey is actually going to become more liquefied, because of the water content in the flowers. So I want to give enough room so then that way over the 3 to 6 weeks that I let this sit, I'm just going to let that sit like that, I can mix the goldenrod and the honey all around. That way it's properly getting infused. And then afterwards when I do simmer this down, it'll turn thick again, and I'm going to put it into a smaller jar because it'll be just storing and it won't be fermented. So that's why it's always good to, like, if you have extra jars from food, or mainly food, you can save them and wash them. That's what I usually do. That's what I did with the dogwood seeds. This is actually an olive jar container. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was a little motivational, inspirational, and a little bit magical. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow for day 2 of a little spook fest for October. It's probably going to be all scattered around of just different topics and ideas and inspirations. Some motivational, some inspirational, and then some a little magical like today. So I hope you guys love this, and if you want to see anything in the month of October, please leave a comment down below. Make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell button so you can get notifications when I post. Have a great day, guys.